In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your rear caliper in a Kia Soul. It's located behind your rear wheel. When replacing any sort of hydraulic part in your vehicle, you want to press down your brake pedal using a pry bar or a pole of some sort while you're doing the work so that you do not lose all the brake fluid out of your master cylinder and the brake bleed won't be so difficult. I'm going to use a 21mm socket. Take off my rear wheel. All right, so we're going to be using a 12mm socket. We're going to loosen our brake hose. Make sure you have a drain pan underneath to catch any brake fluid. Put it over to the side. And now we're going to use a 14mm socket. And you're going to take out your caliper bolts. Set that on the ground. At this point, you can take out your pads. Use a flathead screwdriver to wiggle them loose. Make a note that these are on the inside and on the top, the squealers. And now we're going to use a 14mm to loosen up our caliper bracket bolts. Make sure you hold on to your bracket after you take that bolt out. Another mental note, this bolt is longer and it's on the top, and it's because of all this other bracket stuff connected. All right, so we have our new caliper here. We are going to inspect it, make sure there is caliper grease where it belongs. I'm going to use a 14mm. Take out these slide bolts. Set that off to the side. So what you're going to do is remove this boot. By pushing the lip back. Pull these out. Some silicone paste on your slide bolt. You're going to remove your boot. Look inside there. Add some more on this and put it in there. And then we're going to add some more in the boot. Shove that in there, and when you pull it out, you want to squeeze. Make sure you get plenty in there inside the ribs. That's where it stores its grease. We can put our boot back on and then put the bolt in. Push down. You're going to hear air come out. If you feel like there's a lot of air trapped in there like I do, you're going to let it out. You don't want to leave the air in there because it's going to dry out the slides and then your caliper won't slide the way it needs to. Wipe off the excess. So when you pull that out, there should be plenty of vacuum, so it sucks it back in. Do the same up top. Just make sure you don't tear or rip the boot or poke a hole in it. That's good. Let's put some grease where the shims live. All right, so install your shims. That one seems a little tight. All right, so now we're going to go back to the vehicle and we're going to install our bracket, our pads, and then the caliper. All right, so we're going to line up our caliper bracket. Bolt hole on the top. Do that one first. Remember, it's the longer bolt goes on the top for this car. And then we can do the bottom one. We're going to snug these up and torque them to 50 foot-pounds. You can torque them to 50 foot-pounds. All right, we are going to start with our pad in the back. Make sure your squealer is on the top and the pad is curved with the rotor. Slide it in, and grab your other one. Slide that one in. We're going to put our caliper on. The bracket, line it up. And start the bolts. And then we're going to snug them up and torque them to 20 foot-pounds. Okay, so now it's time to connect our brake hose. You should have 2 copper washes with the bolt. Do not reuse your copper washes. Use the new ones. So you're going to sandwich the hose in between. So you're going to want to line your brake hose up with this notch here, so that goes inside there. You're going to put one washer on the inside. Make sure it doesn't fall out. And then you're going to put the other washer with the bolt. And feed that through so that your hose is in between the two washers. Might have to wiggle the hose a little to get it to line up. Once you got it started, you can tighten it down. This bolt is 11 millimeter socket. The old one was 12. You just want to squash those washers down a little bit. So I'd say about a little more than wrist tight. All right, so now we're going to take our pry bar off the brake and do a gravity bleed. All right, so we're going to check our reservoir, master cylinder, make sure it has enough. This vehicle takes start 3 or 4. I'm going to fill it up to max. I'm going to put our cap back on. And then we're going to go do a gravity bleed in the back. All right, we are going to take our bleeder cap off. Now we're going to use a 10 millimeter line wrench. We are going to crack open that bleeder. And we're going to wait until we see fluid come out. Initially there'll be some air bubbles most likely. Once the air bubbles are gone, we can close it down, and that's a gravity bleed. It takes a minute, so be patient. Gotta let it run out for a minute. Doesn't look like there's any air in there, so we are going to close it down. And at this point, we can check our master cylinder, make sure it's full, and check our brake pedal. If it's squishy, you're going to have to go ahead and do a full brake bleed on the system. If it feels good, nice on the top, firm, take it for a test drive. Don't forget to put your cap back on. Got to put a wheel back on, get a lug nut started. And use a 21 millimeter socket. Start at the bottom, lock the wheel on. And in a star-like pattern, you're going to be tightening them down. We're going to be torquing these later. All right, now the wheel's on the ground, we can torque it to 80 foot-pounds with a 21 millimeter socket. You're going to do this in a star-like pattern, and then you're going to check it one more time after. All right, now you can take a deep breath because this job is done. You can take it for a road test. In this video, I'm going to show you how to bleed your brakes on your Kia Soul. Before we extract our fluid out of the master cylinder, you're going to clean off your cap so that you don't contaminate the master cylinder. Okay, you're going to take your cap off. You want to remove your little filter that's inside there. Set that aside on your pan that you have ready. All right, next thing you're going to do is siphon out your brake fluid. You can use a siphoner like this. It's also battery operated ones. Try to get as much fluid out as possible. Our extractor only goes in so fast, so there is going to be a little fluid left over. Put our filter back in. And we're going to top off our master cylinder with brake fluid. This vehicle takes .3 or 4. I'm going to fill it up to max. And now we're ready to bleed our brakes. We're going to follow the brake sequence. It's right rear first, then to the front left, and then to the left rear, and then to the front right. You're going to take off your bleeder cap, set that off to the side. You're going to use a 10mm wrench. Crack open that, make sure that bleeder opens. You're going to use this hose. You want to catch the fluid somehow. So you can use something like this or a pan below. And then you're going to have a partner in the vehicle and you're going to ask them to pump the brakes. And then you're going to ask them to hold. And when they hold, you're going to open the bleeder. Is that to the floor?
It's on the floor, down.
Then you're going to close the bleeder. Pump it out, please.
Holding.
Holding, and then I open the bleeder. That's to the floor. Close the bleeder. And do one more. Pump it up.
Holding.
And open the bleeder. That's to the floor. And then close the bleeder. You're going to close that bleeder down. Replace your cap. Let's clean our area. And move on to the next wheel. All right, so now you're going to take your cap off the bleeder on this one. Place your hose on and do the same thing you just did. So pump it up, please.
Holding.
And you're going to close it. Pump it up, please.
Holding.
Yeah. Close it. Do one more.
Holding.
All looks good. You're gonna close that down. Gonna put your cap back on. Gonna clean our area. And then you're gonna check your master cylinder and add fluid. So now we're gonna top off our fluids. Make sure it goes to the max. Our cap back on. After topping off your fluid, repeat the bleed process on the next two wheels, the left rear and the right front. And now we're ready to go back up top and check our fluid in our master cylinder, make sure it's topped off, goes to the max. Our cap back on. All right, now that you've checked your level on your master cylinder, you're going to get in your vehicle and you're going to check your brake pedal. If your brake pedal feels a little spongy, you might have to bleed your brakes again. If it feels hard and it's right at the top, then you're good to go and you should take it for a test drive.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.